Chicago Tonight, Latino Voices is made possible in part by Allstate and the Searle Funds at the Chicago Community Trust, and by the support of these donors.
Good evening y bienvenidos to Chicago Tonight, Latino Voices. I'm Alex Hernandez of Univision Chicago Primera Hora, which airs every weekday morning at 5 and 6. Thank you for sharing part of your weekend with us. On the show tonight, as Highland Park residents recover from last week's tragic mass shooting, we'll hear from the town's leaders on how they're reaching out to the community with resources to help them heal. Local tech entrepreneurs got some good news this week. We'll talk to them about how the $100,000 they're getting from Google will help them grow their businesses. Singer-songwriter Elena Mendoza on what you can hear from her at Wicker Park Fest next weekend.
The main message of this particular show in general is, as an artist, you could literally work with anything, any material, any object, anything.
And how a local urban anthropologist works with marble, wood, and other inanimate objects to pay homage to South Chicago. First off tonight, in what is now a devastatingly familiar pattern in America, the town of Highland Park has begun its slow recovery from the shock of a mass shooting. The 4th of July parade shooting took 7 lives and injured dozens more. And the trauma of the tragic event has also impacted the thousands of residents there, as well as those in the surrounding communities. Joining us now with more are Highland Park Mayor Nancy Rothering and Highland Park City Council member Estapia, who wrote about his experience at the parade in a social media post. I want to welcome both of you to Chicago Tonight, Latino Voices. Thank you for being here. And I want to start with you, Council Member Tapia. Can you tell us about what you experienced that day?
Yeah, it was a joyful day, blue skies, festivity, families everywhere. And the mayor and the city council were carrying proudly the banners of Highland Park. We were like 2.5 blocks away from Port Clinton Square when all pandemonium broke loose. And I heard somebody say shooter in Port Clinton Square. And my wife was sitting, waiting for me at back of the dais where I was going to return after we had finished marching. So I ran with everything I had in counter to the tsunami of people running down the hill on Central Avenue. And I remember, I'll never forget coming upon Port Clinton Square and seeing the bodies there and looking and trying to see if one of them was my wife. And suddenly in the panic and the fear, I looked up and there she was standing all alone in a distinctive blue t-shirt, ironically enough, the March for Our Lives t-shirt that we had gone on in an anti-gun protest just not too long before that. And there she was, and untouched, at least physically, and we had sort of embrace of our lives. And so that was moments that I will never forget, and I think will stay with me for a very long time. But the relief that she was alive was, something I will never, ever let go of.
Definitely. I can't even imagine what that might have felt like. Mayor, tell us about where you were at that moment and what were your thoughts right after.
My thoughts were one of disbelief. My thoughts were also, what do I do right now to keep my community safe? We immediately pivoted to an emergency evacuation of the parade route and proceeded to just run to both sides of the parade route and yell to people to run, that there was an active shooter, to leave their belongings, leave their chairs, just run. It was just, we were halfway through the parade. So we had a whole slew of folks who didn't know what was happening. It was very strange because at one point I remember turning around, I think I spoke directly to Andres and I said, that's so weird that the band has stopped playing. All I hear is a drum cadence, but it wasn't the drum cadence. It took me 4 days to realize that was the sound of the gunfire.
And I think everybody is very familiar with the band, seeing that particular video of the kid shooting, that video on social media, and where we see the band starting to run. Exactly. So that's around the area where you guys were at. Mayor, people might not think of Highland Park as a community with a significant Latino presence. What are the demographics like there?
About 25% of our school children are Latino, and Highwood and Highland Park really view each other more as more than sister communities, but as one community. Having known several of these families for decades, through my own children, through coaching soccer, we are all one community. And to that end, I feel it's very important that people recognize that the Latino community has been impacted just as hard as the rest of the non-Latino community. We know that folks in Waukegan and North Chicago and Highwood are needing services just as much as people who live in Highland Park.
Definitely. And Councilmember Estapia, what was behind your decision to post publicly about your experience and speaking out about mental health?
Yeah, there are a couple of reasons. One is the city immediately offered mental health trauma help like the very next morning, and then it just has been going on since then. And they offered it to city staff and city elected officials so that we could go in and really get the help we needed personally. So that was one step that I took for my own health and my health of my family. But also I needed to be strong along with the mayor and the rest of the city leaders to comfort and support our citizenry. And I realized as I was there that I needed to be a role model about getting the help because I really needed it. I was as devastated as everybody else, as traumatized as everybody else. And I saw the methodology be so healthy and so good. And I saw 25 of us come through coming in very brittle and very broken and very scared and coming out of a 2-hour session in a much more, consolidated, integrated way and able to have enough strength to do the hard work ahead of us. So I felt that not only did it benefit me, I had to tell others that it was beneficial, and I had to encourage others to get the help that was available. And I needed to role model that. I needed to say, I needed the help. I went and got help. It helped me. Right. And therefore, when you ask, what can you do right now? One thing you can do right now is go get the help you need and bring everybody else you can with you. So that posting it publicly on social media was an important part of being able to get the word out.
And so much more to be done. Mayor, you and other members of Highland Park community have been in Washington, D.C. recently asking for legislative changes to prevent future shootings. What would you like to see done?
Frankly, Alex, I think we need a national ban on weapons that were built and designed for mass destruction in combat. We as a city banned assault weapons in 2013 in the wake of Sandy Hook, recognizing that this devastation was all over our country. But Highland Park isn't an island. And so we reflected the values of our community. But I would guess that the values of most Americans is that we do need to get these weapons off of our streets. For most of the mayors in this country, it's not a question of if this happens, but when will this happen? And that's a horrible thing to think about. We talked earlier about the evacuation of the parade route. What's also very telling is that the children immediately knew what to do. The adults and the grandparents were looking at each other like, what are you saying to me? What do you mean active shooter? The kids said, run. They knew immediately. And I think that's a very telling and sad implication of our nation.
Right. Mayor, thank you very much. And last council member, this is our last question. We have less than 1 minute, but I wanted to ask you, what advice do you have for people who are reluctant maybe to seek out mental health help?
Yeah, this is true for everybody, but I'll speak particularly to Latino community. We have a stigma in our community about seeking help for mental health. And we have to really embrace the need, and that mental health is as important as physical health. And the resources are there. And this was traumatic. No one escapes the impact of what happened, whether you got physically injured or not. And I've been going to our kitchens and restaurants here in Highland Park and asking to talk with the Latino staff there in Spanish and saying, hey, as Latino men, many times we say, soy valiente, I'm brave, I don't need that. And to say that, the valiente thing to do is to seek help. And we cannot help our families unless we take care of ourselves. So that's the message. It's not a stigma. There's nothing to be ashamed of. The help is there, and we're providing that. And please seek it out.
We'll actually have more information on those resources for mental health on our website. Our thanks to Mayor Nancy Rothering and Council Member Andres Estapia. Thank you both.
Thank you.
Yeah, thank you, Alex.
Up next, local startups that just received some major funding from Google. 5 local Latino-led startups received some very welcome news this week. Each of their businesses were awarded $100,000 from Google's Startups Latino Founders Fund. The move comes as a recent study shows that in the U.S., just 2% of venture capital funding went to startups with Latino founders last year. This, despite Latinos making up 17% of small business founders. Joining us now to talk about their businesses and what this funding boost will do for them are 4 of these recipients. Ricardo Regalado, founder and CEO of Root, a digital cleaning operating system. Luis Suarez, founder and CEO of Sanaray, a platform for Spanish language mental health services. Omar Hernandez, founder and CEO of OneBit, a platform that automates financial tracking for independent business owners. And Osvaldo Montelongo, founder and CEO of Connect Care Hero, which builds online communities for older adults, their families, and healthcare providers. Thank you, all of you, for being here today, and congratulations, by the way. And I want to start with you, Luis Suarez. The COVID pandemic has focused more attention onto mental health resources than ever. How big a need do you see for Spanish language mental health services?
Oh, yeah, there's a huge gap between the 5% of mental health providers that speak Spanish in the U.S. and 13% of the population that speaks Spanish at home. So, yeah, we've seen increased demand for the services, and there's just a mental health professional shortage in the first place, and the ones that speak Spanish are in super high demand.
Osvaldo Montelongo, your business got its start with your father. Can you tell us a little bit about Connect Care Hero's origin story?
Yeah, so my story started way back when my
your connection
had me at 57 years old.
Okay, go ahead. Yeah, we hear you now.
Yeah, and in my early 20s, I had to take care of my dad. And I quickly realized, he was getting dementia, and I had to move into a nursing home. And so when I moved him into a nursing home, I noticed right away that his mental health was declining pretty quickly. And a lot of it really was because he didn't have the right cultural connections to programming for him. And so I developed Connect Your Hero to kind of help him and other Latinos like him, rancheros, to have programming that's more culturally sensitive to them, to help improve their social wellness.
Omar Hernandez, with Latinos starting businesses at an increasing rate here in the U.S., how do you see the services your business offers helping Latino entrepreneurs like yourself succeed?
Well, definitely our service can help businesses, especially the ones in the Latino community, make better sense of their financial data. So since a lot of these businesses are selling online now, they need to be able to connect these online systems along with their existing point of sale systems within their stores. So connecting all of that information and being able to make decisions on that financial data is very crucial to help these businesses succeed.
Ricardo Regalado, you're not from a tech background. What challenges have you encountered in moving from a services world into tech?
Yeah, man, it's been a struggle, but it's been a struggle that has challenged us, right? It's challenged me, it's challenged everybody on my team, but it's been something that we've been excited about because even though we don't have some of the technical background, we're in Chicago. It's a huge tech ecosystem. So I was able to find the right people to align myself with and help me build the product, right? Bring it from an idea to a reality. But guess what we are, though? We are the subject matter experts, though, right? So that's the other side of building technology is you need to understand who you're building it for and why you're building it. So because of being in such a great city that has such great technical resources, it was a challenge that we met head on, and we've been fighting and having fun ever since.
And we know starting a business, it's not easy, and funding can be extremely difficult. Luis, have you encountered difficulties in getting investment funding? What were your challenges?
Yeah, I think there's just the numbers prove themselves that if the situation is kind of messed up. But in my personal experience, yeah, it took a lot of meetings, but in the end, we were able to close a pre-seed round, maybe like 60 meetings. 60 meetings?
Yeah. Are you talking specifically just for the Google fund?
Oh, no, for the yeah, well, like as part of our pre-seed round, yeah.
Okay. Yeah, that's impressive, definitely. Omar, how will this grant help your businesses in particular get to the next level?
Well, we plan to use the Google Startups Award to help us build out additional product features. We're going to hire some technical talent, and we're going to use the money to expand to other major cities in the U.S.
And Osvaldo, do you think it's important for targeted investment for Latino-led startups?
Yeah, I think it's proven that when you do invest in Latino founders, Latino-led companies, is that you get a higher return. A lot of the things that we're experiencing isn't what typical investment goes into, but it is a big problems we're addressing within our communities. So I think it's smart to invest in Latino founders, communities,
right.
And it's going to pay off in the end.
Definitely. And this question is pretty much for all four of you, if time lets us. What's your advice for other aspiring Latino entrepreneurs? I'm going to go back with you, Luis.
Well, I would say go for it. I think I was thinking of, starting a company for a while, and the experience has been great. And, the downside is not that bad if it fails. I think entrepreneurship is more and more seen as a good thing, to try out.
I like that. Osvaldo?
Yeah, I think the investment going into the space is definitely a big leap for everyone. I definitely recommend if there's a pressing need within the community, definitely go for it. Now is the time, I think, for jumping into entrepreneurship, especially for Latinos.
Omar?
I would say just go for it. Like, you learn from experience. Personally, I ran a business previously, so it taught me a lot about running and managing a business. And I would say just go for it.
Ricardo?
Yeah, like we say in Spanish, right? Si se puede. If I could do it, right? Everybody here can do it. A lot of us don't come from the background or the pedigree, but it's grit and hard work. And we know that a lot of Latinos have a lot of hard work and have grit. It's just now leverage what's out there, leverage the future. The future is technology, entrepreneurship. Mm-hmm. So I think it's, do it. Like we all said, go for it. Take a chance, take a risk.
To anybody, $100,000 sounds like a lot. Maybe for a business, it might not be too much. But what are you guys doing with the money? So we have less than a minute. Going around again with Luis.
Yeah. Hiring a head of operations, ramping up marketing.
Okay. Osvaldo?
Broke up a little bit for me, so I didn't hear the questions. Apologize.
What are you going to do with the money?
Yes, for us, it's really continue to develop out our product. It's going to continue building out our customer support and essentially getting us to profitability, which is our end goal right now.
Omar?
Hire technical talent and expand to other major cities.
Great expansion. That's awesome. Ricardo?
Yeah, sales and marketing, building the team. We're building the tech as we speak, but now it's time to go to market 2, 3, 4, 5 times over now. And really start to make an impact and get some market share.
Great. Well, guys, if you're hiring, let me know. We'll be in touch. Thank you all, Ricardo Regalado, Luis Suarez, Omar Hernandez, and Osvaldo Montelongo. Congratulations again.
Thank you.
Thank you, Alex. Appreciate it.
Back with more Chicago Tonight, Latino Voices, right after this.
The Patrick and Shirley Ryan Grant for Creativity, Innovation, and Entrepreneurship makes possible stories that enrich lives and inspire our communities.
Wicker Park Fest returns to Milwaukee Avenue next weekend, and among the musical attractions is Y La Bamba, a West Coast band led by singer, songwriter, and guitarist Elena Mendoza. The first-generation Mexican-American Mendoza says the foundation of Y La Bamba's sound comes from a variety of traditional Mexican musical styles, but it's a constantly evolving feminist perspective that shapes her lyrics.
When I write, I have my childhood in me, and I'm just like a musical person, like life is music. I'm not the only one with the story, and we find each other on Sunday, those bookies blasting super freaking loud, and we're fucking mopping the floors with towels and singing Necesito una compañera, you know? And just like having those melodies in my head like really informs you, because the type of music that informed me as a Mexican American is like corridos norteños, like guapangos, bolero, more grupero, more music from el campo. A lot of the music I grew up listening to, which they were all men, but most of it, like los, you know, Carlos y José, los Ramón Ayala, you know, aunque bien así tiernito el hombre, pero, you know, es hombre. And a lot of that music is like super misogynistic, but it was like their way of like knowing how to connect. So I grew up that like listening to that. And I also grew up listening to like Las Jilguerías, which is women, you know, like in their resistance, música bien bonita del campo, you know, like Las Palomas. I think Las Palomas is also, I think they're actually the same girls, or maybe it's just they alternate, but the songs are just so beautiful. Because I do know that Chicago has a large Mexican population, you know, and the history behind it. And so I hope that that we can all have family together, you know, because that's what it is. But when I'm in the moment and when I'm there, I just hope that I'm creating safe spaces for people to come and feel like they can find themselves, you know?
Y La Bamba performs Friday night at Wicker Park Fest. You can find out more on our website. We're not done yet. A museum in West Town is paying tribute to the city's South Chicago neighborhood in a new solo exhibition by a self-taught historian. Arts correspondent Angel Ledoux introduces us to Ramon Villarreal.
Marble, serpentine, and wood. These are just a few of the elements manipulated by artist Roman Villarreal.
What I was doing in most of my work is I was sharing South Chicago and the Southeast side with the world, but I never realized it at the time. I was like documenting events, but then I also realized that whatever I was doing, it had to be done in an equal basis. In other words, good with the bad.
So that's what he titled the exhibition, South Chicago Legacies.
I don't dwell too much on the immigration end of this. I deal more with urban, what it is to be an urban person and living in this community. And being a steelwork community, blue collar, what we've experienced in the good and the bad. But I show a little bit of everything.
Villarreal refers to himself as an urban anthropologist, a self-taught skill he says he learned early on as a child.
My mind is a 3D mind. My mind thinks in 3 dimensions, you know, and layers, because of the years of being a sculptor. So that affects my work.
The exhibition, showcased in West Town's Intuit Center for Intuitive and Outsider Art, features Villarreal's work from as early as the 1970s.
And I didn't realize the importance of developing your own technique until years and years later, because I really wanted to paint like everybody else, like Siqueiros, Rivera. But then after you start studying more, you realize that that's not necessary. They want more of what like your soul. Once you master your media that is yours, and you start doing these things, what's going to sell is your soul.
Villarreal works to pay homage to both his community and heritage.
What South Chicago story does the sculpture tell?
Well, this one basically is just sharing our past. And this is the tatas, this is the great-grandfathers, but she was the birth of the mestizo, the 3 races, you know, which is us, the Latino people now in the Americas.
Made from serpentine, Villarreal says this is his newest piece for the exhibition. These wooden cutouts from 1977 are the oldest.
What do you think that the shadows add to the piece?
Well, it gives it that extra dimension from flat. And being a sculptor, you really don't want to deal with flat.
Whether it be depicted through his collage-style sculpting, paintings, or cutouts, Villarreal says the theme within his work remains the same.
The main message of this particular show in general is, as an artist, you could literally work with anything. It's not important to me, the money value right now. It's what we're going to leave, the legacy that we're leaving behind.
For Chicago Tonight Latino Voices, I'm Angel Ito.
You can see South Chicago Legacies at Intuit, the Center for Intuitive and Outsider Art, through January 8th. That's going to be our show for this weekend. Be sure to check out our website, WTTW.com/news, for the very latest from WTTW News. While you're there, you can check our Summer Festival Guide as well. And if you're watching us on Saturday night, know that you can also catch Latino Voices and Black Voices on Sundays beginning at 10 p.m. Don't forget also to tune into Primera Hora on Univision Chicago every weekday morning. Now for all of us here at Chicago Tonight Latino Voices, I'm Alex Hernandez. Thank you for sharing part of your weekend with us. Buenas noches.
Closed captioning is made possible by Robert A. Clifford and Clifford Law Offices, a Chicago personal injury and wrongful death firm whose attorneys embrace a culture of philanthropy and service by volunteering their time, expertise, and guidance to help others in the greater Chicago community.